Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. I'm your host, Haris the Green Carpenter, and today we'll be talking about second generation business growth. Well, with me today we have Mr. Brian Soo. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Hi, Harith. Thanks for having me.
Sure. I think just to give a little background to our audience, last time Brian reached out to me because he wanted to meet other second generation business owner, and we met. I think somewhere in a cafe somewhere, and we have a talk. And when it was
Yeah.
interesting lah, and then that also sparked my interest to have more conversation with second generation business owners because the challenges that we face are slightly different. And I've always been I like the idea with working or finding more second generation people because
Mhm.
this past few years I've been helping a lot of companies, especially second generation or startup, where I find that it's easier uh, to create change if there's new leadership or if the owner is slightly younger compared to first generation. It's easier to convince them that sustainability good and certain thing. So today we're going to be talking more a lot of those. So thank you very much, Brian, for coming in. Yeah, so before we go into our topic, for the benefits of our audience, can you share a little bit about yourself and also your company?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks really for having me. I think we had our conversation at VCR in Bangsa. We talked on for quite a bit. I remember it was raining. But yeah, my name is Brian Soo. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Firefighter Industry. We're basically a very old 49-year-old fire safety company, one of the oldest in Malaysia. And we are basically one of the five main manufacturers of fire extinguishers. And we also do the other boring things, such as sprinkler systems, hose reel drums, suppression systems, CO2 systems, FM tunnel systems. Basically, all the red things that you're not supposed to touch, not supposed to pull. We do all of those. However, um, yes, it is a second generation business, but I think I bring in a sort of a different perspective of on the second generation. I think very similar to Harith as well. While Harith is looking on the sustainability side of things, I'm looking at how to make fire safety fun, because fire safety itself is very boring, right? It happens. It may not even happen in your lifetime, right? Fires may not even happen in your lifetime, but it's a skill that's very important because when it happens, you need to know what to do with it. And luckily, this is the family business I'm in, and we've been doing it for 49 years, and we're looking to grow it for even longer than that, lah. Um, yeah, is that a good enough introduction, Harith?
So, what is your background? Like, what do you
Mhm.
study or what are your interests?
Yep. So I went to the US. I went to the University of California, San Diego. Pretty far away. You need to do like three different flights, 20 hours to get there. By the time you get there, you're tired. But I studied international business, but not before switching majors. I think about three times. I don't even remember how many times I switched, but I've sort of gathered different things, lah. Right. So like computer science. I did a little bit on a 3D designing, a little bit on video making. So little things collected, and I think it's good for a business owner to be very broad. Um, and basically, what happened was that when I was there, I was very intrigued with the startup world, because I mean the US has probably one of the most startups at that time lah, in Silicon Valley. So my goal was always to be in that ecosystem. So I moved up to San Francisco after I graduated. Was there for about 2 years, working on a Kickstarter project back then, in a co-working space, which was situated in the Twitter building itself, lah, which is now under Elon Musk. Um, and right after that, I after 2 years, I came back to Malaysia to visit, and I think that's when I realized that it's time. I think it's time to come back. Of course, there are a lot of different reasons, which we will get into it lah, later. I came
Sure, sure.
back and realized that there's a lot of opportunities And when I say opportunities, I mean challenges. A lot of challenges and a lot of ways we can improve the business. And yeah, it's
Mm.
been 3.5 years since I fully came back and worked on this, and I now run the innovations team, which is basically the team that is, the forward for the company lah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, how many siblings do you have? And
Mhm.
like, are they all in the business?
Yeah, I think Harith, you mentioned you have quite a lot of siblings, right? um, I only have two older ones, 10 years and 13 years older. They're not very much in the business, so it's mainly still me in this business. My parents are a bit older, 71 and 66 this year. So there's a huge gap between the
Yeah.
founder and the
So,
second generation.
yeah. So the next question is like, why do you decide to continue? Because you have the option, or you don't have the option. I don't know, because your other siblings don't have to. So why do you decide to continue?
I think family business all have uh, different reasons of why they continue in the family business. For me, it was two things. When I was back in the family business, I was in and out, learning the business a little. I saw a huge opportunity, as I mentioned. That's one of the reasons, because I don't think anyone in the 20s were in the 550 industry at that time, not in the manufacturing for sure. So I'm like, okay, this is a nice industry where I can inject some stuff, right? Some startup stuff in. Where the first thing we did was to inject e-commerce. We were the first 550 company to go onto any e-commerce platform, and right now we're number one in all e-commerce platforms, including our own website. But the main reason why I'm back is because when I was back in Malaysia, my father actually suffered a stroke. Thank goodness he's okay and he's fine now. I mean, he works out a lot to make sure that he overcomes that, is overcoming that as well. But that made me realize that my parents are no longer young. They don't really have a clear succession plan, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Understand, understand. So, I know for a fact as well, you quite involved with the Youth Manufacturer Association, which
Yep.
later you can share a little bit. And but my question is, out of, because you deal a lot as well with companies that have second generation, you have a lot of
Mhm.
friends within that as well. So, what do you see the difference between first generation business and second generation?
Yeah, I think the second generation has a different set of challenges that we face, right? The first generation, for the most part, a lot of people started businesses back then was to find a way to either get out of poverty or find means and ways to make money. But the second generation has a different set of problems. I think a lot of times it's how do they grow the company, or how do they even sustain in this industry. A lot of second generation are industries that are sunset industries, and what do the second gen do now, right? Do they pivot to a different industry totally, or do they try to innovate the space? I think Mr. DIY did a pretty good job in that, right? From like generic hardware stores now is, I mean, they're the whole of Malaysia. I think they have thousand over stores, and even in Spain and Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. So they're everywhere. And there are the other challenges, which for me, where is how do we grow? How Where do we go from here? What I see in a lot of second generation business is that there is a glass ceiling that they've hit, the glass ceiling to expand further, to gain more revenue, more growth. How does one break that ceiling? And there are a lot of strategies, of course, right? One is to exit, one is to get investors in, going public. One is just to build structure in the company, and that's what I'm doing. Building structures of all the domain knowledge that we've collected over 49 years. We have employees that have been with us for 45 years, since his SPM days to now, he's with us. How do I convert that knowledge into something where it's a structure we can grow and scale? I think that is a challenge that a lot of businesses are facing too, and that's for me at least.
Understand, understand. And I think why I can resonate or relate to it is because one, when I joined the business, it's also a boring industry. Like the timber industry in Malaysia is one of the largest in the world. Malaysia
Mm-hmm.
have exported to more than 160 countries. So
Wow.
it's very strong, it's very competitive. However, it's a sunset industry. Not a lot of
Yep.
young people want to join the business, and for me as well, I see it as an opportunity. But as well, because there's so much competition, so it drives me to be a little bit more creative, and that is, I
Mm-hmm.
think, where I found sustainability, and it has worked wonders for us. So what happened was we took, or we were in the sunset industry, but when we shift to sustainability, suddenly we are in a sunrise industry. So
Yep. Yeah.
it's still manufacturing of furniture, but because of the sustainability elements and security, we are now considered as a sustainable lifestyle company instead of furniture manufacturing company. So it worked well for us, and right now we are also raising fund and getting investors to grow the business as well. But I think what I want to ask is, a lot of businesses, especially manufacturing, like our business, the challenges is more on the scaling up, because if we look into the startup ecosystem, if it's software, then scaling up it's relatively easy. But for product wise, there are a lot of challenge. So how do you see that scaling up challenge, or how do you, I don't know,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I think Yeah, I think when we visited your factory, the Green Factory was quite an eye opener, right? I think you mentioned what you're focusing on is mass customization, and that's not many players in the market that does that. And I think it's amazing going to ESG, and not just fighting for price, right? I think a lot of traditional manufacturers they just go as low as possible, and the only winner I think you mentioned as well are the customers, right? But you don't get value from that. Even as the customers, you're just going to get cheap products. I think that is one of the challenges that we have too, right? We are in a very regulatory based business where people just want to get the fire extinguishers. People just want to get it for regulatory. They need it for their business to get their business license. And that has been the industry for a long time, right? You need sprinkler systems because why? The bomba says that you need these sprinkler systems based on the calculation by the consultants and engineers. Sure, that is still the lion's share for our business still. That's the revenue. That's where the bulk of the money is coming from, right? But what we've done, or what the challenges is that people don't see fire safety as interesting or cool. And I think that was a problem I saw as well. It's like, I'm bored of this, man. I don't want to just sell this boring product. So the first thing we did was marketing, right? Thank goodness when I was in school, I enjoyed marketing a lot. I love branding. I love shooting videos. That's the first thing we did, right? We were the first company to do any sort of content for fire safety, right? So we were on TikTok. We are on TikTok. We have over 4 million views. We had an advertisement that went viral on Facebook that got our Facebook page banned, which reached 2 million people for an advertisement at a CTA of 0.01 ringgit. So less than a cent, 1/10 of a cent. But that's because no one else has done it before. So what we've done also is we launched products. We are very seasonal now, so we have like Raya campaigns, Chinese New Year campaigns, we have special edition fire extinguishers. For Chinese New Year, we tried the market, right? We launched a 388 ringgit fire extinguisher, individually numbered, and we sold out within a week. And our first buyer wasn't even Chinese, so that was what shocked us. Like, oh wow, there is a market for premium fire extinguishers, right? While it's niche, there is a
Like
market.
collectibles, huh?
Yeah, we actually have collectors. We have, I think, a couple of them actually bought every single fire extinguisher that we've launched
Nice.
since end of 2021. That's when we launched our first special edition fire extinguishers. And I mean, it's a great market to be in, right? There's no one else in the space that's doing what we're doing. But of course, we need to look back at what gives us money as well, which is the more traditional side. So a lot of challenges still. But the main one is really changing the customers' behaviors, lah, which I think you did as well, really well.
So how do you see the scaling up? Like, how can you grow as fast as possible, but at the same time, your manufacturing can catch up?
Yep. I think we are in a slightly different position. I think very early on, my parents, the founders, um, put a lot of effort into branding and marketing. So much so that our building is along the federal highway, the oldest highway in Malaysia. No other fire safety company is on a highway. They're mostly in a factory areas. For obvious reasons, it's a factory. You don't need to be on the main highway. But we did it because I think that's what my parents are good at, right? Branding and marketing. So our challenges is not more on getting customers, but how do we scale the operational side? I think that's what you mentioned as well. And I think that's the challenge that we're facing now. We need to have more people servicing, right? So right now, my role is a lot on HR as well, a lot on human resource, a lot on talent and culture. I think if you look at companies like Grab, right, they're basically taxi drivers, and the taxi driver industry was horrible back then, but they managed to convert it into a job that you can do anytime that you want, and something that can actually put food on your table. And I think during the pandemic, they and the other food deliverers were hailed as heroes, right? The frontliners. How did they manage to convert a taxi driver or a delivery person to something like that? I think that's the challenge that we are facing too. How do we build a culture like that in our industry, in our company?
So yeah, I think I like the way you choose talent as a way to scale up, because a lot of people they always talk about like machines,
Mhm.
automation, robotics, and all that, but you choose to talk about talent. So let's go a little bit in terms of talents, because you have how many staff right now?
The whole of firefighters is at 140 people. My team right now is at 12 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you handle the people actually? Your team is one thing, but for overall of the company, like 100 plus people, how does the HR system or people management work there?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning we started in a silo, right? Our team is on a separate space. We're on the second floor, where the others are on the ground, first and third floor. And what we realized this issue early this year, that we don't have that synergy between teams, and without synergy, you can't move lah, right? You can't spin the flywheel. And so what we did is we had an internal open day, where we shared what we've done over the year and what we're going to do for the year. And we invited everyone to our floor. We had a Nintendo Switch, we have a ping pong table, we had free food. And the time was still before Ramadan. So it it helped in having other people understand what our team is doing, because a lot of things we're doing are a bit long term. You won't see the products until 1 year, 2 years from now. Because we're doing all new things, right? We're also looking to sustainability, ESG, all of those as well. And I think my mantra, which I've gotten a lot of insight from my coach, right? My coach, he's from a government agency that also focuses a lot on talent, a lot on people, and it's really much understanding. I think understanding your team. I see a trend now of talent jumping jobs. And I just had like one-on-ones with my team just now. And I mean, I don't blame them, right? They jump jobs because what? Two things, right? Career advancement and also salary. Easiest way to gain salary these days is to go to another job and you get a 20%, 30% raise. But how do we combat that? So of course, to do that, you need one-on-one heart to heart conversations on planning the career for your team, right? Is this where you want to be in the next 5 years? If not, we will plan your exit as well. We'll help you get a good exit, right? We'll plan your resume out to get a better job in the future. But if you do want to join to be with us, what is your career growth? What is the salary you're looking to have? How do we make sure that salary is what we both expect? A lot of time taken on HR, a lot of time taken on talent, but I believe it's not being talked about enough. I think there's a very famous Instagram page called the Malaysian Pay Gap, where people share about the salaries that they're facing and the struggles they're facing, and even some people are making crazy amounts of money, right? But in very very lucrative industries. Yeah.
Understand. So what are your thoughts, since we are in this topic? What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on like because normally uh, businesses like or business owner, they will say like, "This is my business. If you don't like or if you're not happy here, you can just go. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to try to accommodate to you.
Mm.
I create everything, and you want you stay. If not, you go."
Mhm.
So is it still valid? Do you think, or how do you see that?
So may I say that your question is like when people want to leave, is it? Do we just let them leave or?
No, I mean like it's the seeing how workers are like. Do we see them as I have a set of culture or a set of that is quite rigid, and or you try to like see how they can you give them slightly leeway in terms of flexibility and in terms of that. What do you think
Yeah,
is that?
I think it really depends on the role as well. Some roles you can't really give a leeway. I mean, if you're talking about a factory operator, right? It's a bit difficult, I would say, because that's their role, that's their job. But then we need to have conversations with them. Do you have plans for the next few years? Is this what you want to do for life? Some people are okay with that, and then we expect them to be like this. But I think as a business, we do also need to improve, right? We need to improve our machinery, we need to improve our efficiency, we need to accommodate to people who want to grow. And I think a lot of businesses they grow without understanding what talent they have in the team as well in the company. Um, but it really depends on the role. I think some roles are going to be like this forever. Some roles are to grow with you, to expand with you, lah.
Hmm, understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I want to go to the next question, which is what other thing that you find work for either your business or other second generation business in growing their business.
What works? Oh, I can tell what works for us. I think what works for us is we always try to look the other way. Um, some companies look at it in a straight line, right? This is how you get more sales. This is how you get more revenue. We tend to look at the opposite direction. What are people not doing that we can potentially be good at? Because if you're fighting head to head, I mean, like I mentioned, the only winner is the customer, and we can't innovate if we're always being pressed on pricing. So then that's where we focus on branding and marketing. We make sure that if you work with us, you get us as a supplier, right? You can make sure that there is quality. Right? If there's any sort of complaints, we will work on it, right? We won't run away. Our business won't close down, unlike some companies, smaller companies may happen. And I think what works is whatever you're good at. Lah. I would say that I enjoy branding and marketing, and I think I am okay on that. So then I hone on my skills. And on things that I'm not too good, I hire for them. I hire for talent that I'm not good at.
Awesome, awesome. So before we go into the next question, I think what are you feel an advice for a person that who's thinking about continuing the family business or starting to coming in. So what is your advice to them?
I think first of all you got to know that you, I had this post-it note that I stuck on my whiteboard for a long time. I just removed it not too long ago. And what is on that post-it note is comparison is the thief of joy. Because when you're in the second generation, you're very, very different from your peers. If your peers are in MNC company or your peers are in startups, right? They have very different growth trajectories, not just in career, but also in salary, right? I think every family business salary is very different. It really depends on the founders, what they value you, and sometimes you just got to speak to the founders like, hey, maybe it's time for a salary review. They won't ask for it. It's for you to go ask. And I think that's the mantra that I go for, right? You cannot compare yourself with anyone else in the industry. You cannot even compare with other family businesses. Because some family businesses have a lot of siblings, some have different families, some is just you. So there's no one size fits all. And it helps to be in a support group of other people in similar situations. But again, you can't compare. Like I can't compare with you too, Harith. You have a lot of siblings. You're in a very different space than I am as well. Um, and I mean, I like what you do as well, but I can't do what you're doing. I saw that you launched the buttons, right, for Roy. I'm like, wow, how nice if I could just like make new products like that using like milling and machines. Like, but we cannot. It takes a long time because you're regulated. As much as you can do is having designs on the fire extinguishers. So I think one advice is really don't compare, but get inspiration from others for sure.
So yeah, something about the you talk about support system or people that almost similar boat kind of way. So why don't you share a little bit about the communities that you have, or like the
Mhm.
manufacturers, youth manufacturers, those kind of thing as well.
Yeah, so I'm the current youth chairman for the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers. FMM has 12,000 members, and there's 3,600 manufacturers, so direct members, and the others are associates, so like logistics and warehousing. So they're also members. And basically, FMM is the certified body that actually um, helps with the certificate of origin. So if you want doing any exports, FMM is the one that issues the certificate of origin as stipend by the government lah. So manufacturing is it can be seen as a not sunset, but not a high growth industry, right? Because if you look at startups, high valuation startups are never really in manufacturing. They're all building ecosystems, building communities, expansion in physically, right? But not much in manufacturing. Um, and Basically, 99% of all manufacturers right now, the second layer, all second generation, it's very difficult for people to start manufacturing. There's just a high capex cost, capital expenses. So we've started this a year ago, and we have quite a few youth members now. And we just talk casually, but we have events on a monthly basis. But this support group is really however you want to make out of it, right? Yeah, I think when we met each other too, it's how we want to carry this conversation. There's no set structure like, okay, I need to get this from Harith. This is what I'm trying to get out of him, right? I want to be able to be his customer. No, that's not how it is, right? To be friends, you don't try to squeeze them for something. You just learn from each other. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So the last question is your future plan. So what do you plan to do, and do share with us.
I think very similar to you. You're so into sustainability as well. The earth is dying, to put it simply. Some businesses are looking into it because they have to. So ESG is needed in public listed companies, right? It's part of their requirements. But for a lot of SMEs, like myself and yourself, we don't need to do it. But of course, some people do it to get an additional advantage. Some people do it to be able to have it as a branding or marketing tool. So we are actually looking into that because from our research, about 1 million fire extinguishers are being disposed of every year, and we're not too sure what happens with them. So what can we do about that? Of course, we have plans, but we're still in the background for that. But our main goal has always been to make fire safety as easily acquirable as possible. Before we started our innovations team, pricing for fire extinguishers or fire safety has always been in closed doors. Nobody puts up the price of fire extinguishers because it's a more traditional business where you request for quotation and then you get back the quote and you're like, okay, this pricing seems okay. But if you're not okay, then um, you need to go negotiate. So it was a very opaque pricing before we came in. We sort of shook the industry by putting up a number. This is how much you expect it to be, and I think e-commerce has helped us a lot too to make fire safety easily acquirable for every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. And we're trying to expand in that too. Our team started off very much in the pandemic era. We are all digital, but now we're focusing to be on the ground as well. How do we get in touch closer to people? And that's one of our plans moving forward as well. But we are looking for expansion in all forms lah. We are also in the home content insurance industry as well, because we realize that our target market of people who buy fire extinguishers, not for business, for consumer, are very closely related to the insurance industry. But the insurance industry is the whole brand new market for us. It's the blue ocean for us, but also the red ocean because we don't know too much about it. But that's where we're heading as well.
Awesome, awesome. So we are at the end of the show. Thank you very much, Brian, for sharing your stories. I love what you guys do and would love to see what's in the future for you guys. So, for the audience, thank you very much for tuning in. If you find the content helpful, do share it. And as always, have a green week ahead. Bye bye, guys.